Thank you, Lois. And that actually took my slides away. So let me see if I can get back to them again. But I'd like to welcome everyone. This is something that I really love to do, is to see all of you have volunteered your precious time to help out with ACRL. This is really valuable, and I'm grateful to see you all here. If you haven't had a chance yet to introduce yourself in the chat and maybe put something in there that might be of interest, the committee you're serving on, or a hobby or anything like that, and we can get started. I want to apologize in advance. We have a lot of ground to cover, and I'll be talking probably faster than I want to. I hope we'll have time for questions at the end, but we'll go ahead and get started. And so, Lois, I'm ready for the next slide there. And there it is. Thank you. So I'd like to talk about ACRL's strategic plan, which is also called our Plan for Excellence. As the higher education association for librarians and library workers, we lead academic and research libraries and librarians to advance learning and transform scholarship by focusing on the Plan for Excellence. And you'll see that ACRL has 5 strategic areas: the value of academic libraries, student learning and information literacy, research and the scholarly environment, new roles and changing landscapes, which has been lots of changing landscapes lately, and our newest goal area committee, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And we do our work in these 5 strategic areas by having specific objectives and carefully measuring and monitoring our progress. Our plan requires close coordination between our programs and services, such as budget and finance, professional development, publications, membership, and other operational support. And this work is done in tandem with the committees and communities of practice. And by using this structure, the association can always be responsive to the needs of academic and research librarians and library workers. We are eager to have your ideas and leadership in developing webinars, in discussion forums, in publications, and other resources that meet the needs of the community. And when you have an opportunity, please ask members what we can do for them. And later on in this presentation, you will learn how you can interact with the board of directors. Okay, next slide, Lois. Thank you. EDI is very important, and interwoven throughout the strategic areas of ACRL is a dedication to creating diverse and inclusive communities in the association and in academic and research libraries. And the goal of the core commitment is for EDI to permeate all areas of the association so that ACRL is poised to best support equitable, inclusive, and diverse librarianship. And through this commitment, ACRL will acknowledge and address historical racial inequities, challenge oppressive systems within academic libraries, value different ways of knowing, and identify and work to eliminate barriers to equitable services, spaces, resources, and scholarship. On January 28th, 2022, just 6 months ago, the ACRL Board of Directors approved a 5th strategic goal area dedicated to equity, diversity, and inclusion, and approved the existing ACRL Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee as a goal area committee, as I was saying earlier. And seeking input from member stakeholders, a board working group has been charged with drafting the equity, diversity, and inclusion goals and objectives, which will be reviewed in 2022, later on this year. Some other things that we're doing with EDI. The ACRL Diversity Alliance is in its 6th year, and its goal is to increase the hiring pipeline of qualified and talented individuals from underrepresented racial and ethnic groups. Since its inception in 2017, the ACRL Diversity Alliance has provided a network for member institutions that commit to at least a 1-year diversity residency program at their libraries, residency position. The Diversity Alliance Task Force has submitted a number of recommendations, which the board will take action on in early August. And these recommendations include tiered membership levels and a new division level committee to oversee the program. I'm also very pleased to share that a joint ACRL, Association of Research Libraries, Office of Diversity and Literacy Outreach, and Public Library Association Task Force has submitted in June to the ACRL board the Cultural Proficiencies for Racial Equity, a framework. which will serve as a foundational resource to help public and academic libraries build inclusive cultures within libraries and their broader communities through guidelines on the development and implementation of organizational policies and professional practices that support diverse libraries with a diverse workforce. The document will need to be reviewed by all 4 organizations, and it is expected that the outcome will be known later this summer. ACRL and its units will continue to review and update all aspects of its programs and services to better create more welcoming and inclusive environments. If your group is working on an EDI project, and we really want to know, such as a webinar, please make sure to reach out to Allison Payne at apayne@ala.org or the ACRL EDI committee. Thanks. Next slide. Thank you. So you all are part of ACRL's leadership team. And while membership group is completed throughout the year, the leadership team typically meets twice a year at the ACRL Leadership Council that is held in January at LibLearnX and in June at the ALA Annual Conference, whether that be virtual or in person. LibLearnX will be in New Orleans and pandemic willing, and the annual conference will be next year in Chicago. We want you to be engaged in a productive, healthy, and enjoyable way, and we need you to be the kind of leader who makes all the member volunteers you'll work with feel the same. And we will make a great team, and we know each of you will contribute to ACRL's success. So next slide. So here's sort of the structural parts of it. The structure of American Library Association as codified in the operating agreement, and I'll go over that more in detail later, is unique among American associations, if not unique, certainly unusual. ALA is one association, one legal entity with indivisible assets and a single set of uniform administrative, financial, and personnel policies and procedures. It is also the home for divisions such as ACRL, which have all these divisions have their own strategic plans, their separate boards of directors that are elected by division members, their own executive directors and staff, and their own responsibility for generating revenue to support division staff and carry out their programs. In addition to the 8 divisions of ALA, there are many offices which are units that address broad interests and issues of concern to ALA members. Offices do not have members, but they are advised by member advisory committees. Roundtables, as you see there, are membership units established to promote a field of librarianship not within the scope of any single division. In support of its mission, the American Library Association maintains collaborative relationships with a variety of outside organizations, affiliates, and chapters. Next slide, please. So ALA is one legal entity of which ACRL is a part. So in the eyes of the IRS, ALA is a 501c3, which is the tax code designation, which means we are a charitable, educational, nonprofit organization for the public benefit and not a professional association. And what does this mean for you in your ACRL role? This status, 501c3, puts limits on the amount of lobbying and political activity in which we can engage. So we should have no political speech, no discussion supporting or opposing candidates, and that's important. We don't want to take a position on any candidate. No organizing boycotts, no defamatory remarks about others. And these are not free speech issues. These are tax issues, and we don't want to be the ones that cost ALA its tax exempt status. One of the golden rules in nonprofit management is maintain your tax exempt status. And if you're in any kind of doubt, feel free to contact me. And like all nonprofits, ALA can only engage in a limited amount of lobbying. However, we do advocate for library issues like funding, and you can expect to hear from the ALA Public Policy and Advocacy Office and ACRL as we encourage you to contact your federal and state representatives regarding various issues affecting libraries. I, for one, have been going to Capitol Hill once a year for the last 20 years to advocate for the Library of Congress. Now, let's look at the financial relationships between ALA and ACRL. ACRL is a self-sustaining operation, and I want to emphasize that, self-sustaining operation, which means that we receive no direct financial support from ALA. ACRL revenues from dues, registrations, Sales of publications, ads, etc., cover all of ACRL's expenses, including the staff. Divisions pay ALA overhead through an indirect cost rate, which is currently 26.5% on non-dues revenues generated. For example, every dollar of your ACRL conference registration, 26.5 cents, goes directly to ALA to support services such as information technology, legal, human resources, finance, the library, research, intellectual freedom, ALA advocacy in Washington, and so on. And you may have heard that the ALA Operating Agreement Working Group is currently reviewing and making recommendations on the ALA Operating Agreement. This is the agreement which governs the relationship between the divisions and ALA. And of the recommendations presented at the annual meeting in the District of Columbia is a proposal for the elimination of overhead, or the way that we look at overhead. Our board and budget and finance committee are staying engaged on the working group recommendations, and the board will keep member leaders apprised of implications for ACRL. Next slide. Thank you. So a little bit more about the Operating Agreement Working Group. It was charged to evaluate, assess, and make recommendations to the ALA Operating Agreement, which defines the relationship between ALA and divisions. Specifically, the working group examined how the existing operating agreement is fulfilling the mission and values of the association, as well as the financial structure that supports the joint and individual goals of the association and its divisions. In addition, the working group examined the relationship between ALA and the roundtables for the purpose of making recommendations that guide that relationship as well. The operating agreement valued unity, diversity, authority, autonomy, and collaboration. And these values guided the working group in its assessment and communication. So in June of 2022, the working group put forth the following recommendations to the ALA Executive Board. 1, the Executive Board accepts the operating working group's final report and presents the rewritten policy and outline for changing internal processes and procedures to the ALA Committee on Organization, or COO, for their review, continued association-wide feedback, and then forward to the Executive Board and Council for final review and vote. 2, if the new policy is approved, authorize an implementation task force to develop a new budget process that consists of ALA management, including division executive directors, all 8 divisions, and ALA division budget leaders to outline a new budget process. This process should be developed during FY 23-24 with a report to the Executive Board, division boards, and council. The goal would be to implement a new process for fiscal year 25. The Executive Board encourages the ALA Executive Director, Tracy Hall, to form an internal working group to revise the operational practices that update and include accountability and service expectations for shared services. And that's important, the expectation of services to the divisions. In addition to the operating working group, that wasn't enough, we have the Transforming ALA Governance Task Force, shorthand as TAG, which was appointed by the Executive Board in July 2021 with the charge to indicate and operationalize the culture changing principles of the Avenue M report, the Steering Committee on Organizational Effectiveness, sometimes called SCOE, recommendations, and the Forward Together work, and a new governance landscape, and then establish a regular governance review process and assess the large projects that need to be addressed and create a plan to address them. So after doing that, in June 2022, TAG recommended to the ALA Executive Board, 1, to endorse making the new ALA Executive Board the ALA's governing body, which includes 2 representatives from divisions, and 2, endorse the establishment of an advisory council, which would debate, deliberate, and make recommendations to the Executive Board on topics relevant and important to the membership of the American Library Association, which would include an ACRL counselor. The ACRL Board and Budget and Finance Committee is monitoring these proposed changes and will advise membership of any implications for our association, endorse the establishment of an advisory council which would debate, deliberate, and make recommendations to the executive board on topics relevant and important to the membership of the American Library Association, which includes the ACRL counselor. And the ACRL board and budget and finance committee is staying apprised of these proposed changes and will keep membership up to date for implications. That's a lot. Next slide. Thank you. So awards. So ACRL is rightfully proud of its awards program, which includes Achievement and Distinguished Service Awards, Publication Awards, Research Awards, grants, and scholarships. And the program reached a point a couple of years ago where it was seen as unsustainable. And so a task force spent a year examining the awards program and came up with 13 recommendations, including strategies for making all of the awards sustainable with a focus on making them more equitable, diverse, and inclusive. The ACRL board is in the process of appointing a new task force to see how we can implement these recommendations, how we can make the awards more equitable, diverse, and inclusive, and that work will begin soon, and we're looking forward to it. So as an ACRL leader, you may be asked to comment, send a letter of support, or would like your ACRL committee to issue a statement. So please remember that only the board may speak for ACRL. And I can understand that this seems like a lot of bureaucracy, but it's important that anything that is issued that has ACRL's name on it has been approved by our board. This is a part of our bylaws and our legal obligations. So this also applies to sending letters or taking a position with other organizations. That's only something the ACRL board can do. The board does respond promptly to requests from units to take action. And so if an issue arises, please reach out directly to your staff member or your board liaison. And on a somewhat related note, if you were contacted by a reporter regarding an issue, please get in touch with David Free, who is our senior communications strategist, and he will coordinate interviews as appropriate with the ACRL president, president-elect, or past president. And this is something that we also coordinate with the Communications Marketing Office at ALA. Okay, so a few pertinent policies. Online survey software such as SurveyMonkey make it easy for us to do surveys, but please do not survey without first checking with the ACRL office. And so a reminder, if you do a survey under auspices of ACRL, you don't need to go through an institutional review board review. Review is necessary, though, in order to avoid survey fatigue, avoid duplicate efforts, ensure highest quality of the survey. And once your survey is approved, you can work with staff to determine the best way to field the survey. So ACRL and ALA have the right of first refusal on the work you do within your membership group. So that means ACRL is a publisher and online learning provider. And we know you have creative ideas, and ACRL would like to be the first to consider how to publish your unit's work or offer a webinar on the topic. And when you volunteer for ACRL, you're serving on behalf of the profession. So please check with our ACRL content strategist, Erin Nevius, to propose a topic. And just as a reminder, all working papers and final products of this group are the sole property of ACRL and aren't to be used for any personal projects unless written permission has been obtained from the appropriate governing body. And now, after all that, I'll turn the presentation over to Allison Payne, who I would be lost without her, who can share more details on meetings, appointments, budgets, and so forth. Allison?
Hey, thanks, Jay. Yes, and I also want to mention that we will share the slides after this presentation with the recording. There are hyperlinks within the slides that are very helpful. So I'd like to start by saying that the board meets 4 times per year, and all meetings except for when the board is in executive session are open to any individual. The spring and fall meetings are typically virtual. While we're in the pandemic, the board has been meeting virtually during LibLearnX in January, as well as annual conference in DC. Just recently, they did hold some hybrid meetings, so there was some in-person content. So we will be looking for LibLearnX in January 2023, those will be virtual, and TBD for in-person or virtual at annual conference 2023. Members can stay up to date on board activities through a number of ways. If you have not already joined, I encourage you to join the ACRL Board Public ALA Connect community. This is where you can find upcoming meeting info as well as board agendas, documents, and minutes. Next slide, please. So every committee is assigned a board liaison who serves as a point of contact for questions and advice based on the board members' knowledge of ACRL's mission, policies, and procedures, as well as strategic goals. You can view your roster, which will include your board liaison. And here on the slide, we have the 2022-2023 Board of Directors. Okay, thanks, Lois. It is a good idea to keep up with items that the ACRL board is discussing, and there will be times when you need to work with the ACRL board. What are those times and how do you work with the ACRL board? So here are a few examples. The board approves standards, frameworks, and guidelines. The board also can approve new division level committees or changes to existing committee charges or composition. The board also can approves annually the ACRL Budget and Finance Committee's recommendation for ACRL's and choices next year's budgets. If your committee has a request with financial implications, please work closely with your board and staff liaisons to submit the request. So if you want the board to take an official action, then you will need to complete a board of directors action form. Currently, every ACRL unit also has a staff liaison in addition to their board liaison. And these two, so the board liaison and the staff liaison are part of your contact team. So if you are not sure whether or when to communicate with the board, please just reach out to your board and staff liaison and they'll be able to help. So deadlines for reports actions will be announced via the ALA Connect email list for committee leaders. The board also works virtually, so your items do not have to wait until they meet during those 4 times a year for action. And so now before you can communicate to your team, you will know who is on it. Thank you. So now I'd like to talk about a few resources you have, as well as some other key items to know in the coming year. So ACRL's Directory of Leadership provides contact information for members of your membership group. Specific contact information is only visible to ACRL members to protect your privacy. And by logging into the website, you can view the full roster. So rosters are linked to the contact information ALA's membership database. So please encourage your group members to keep their ALA record up to date. While the membership year began July 1, now is a great time to, if you haven't already, to review your rosters, reach out to your colleagues and introduce yourself. So at this time, I'd like to hand it over to ACRL Program Officer Lois Sharp.
Thank you, Allison. Okay, let's talk about ALA Connect. ALA Connect is an online platform for discussion and collaboration between ALA members. I would advise you to please take some time to read the ALA Online Code of Conduct, which was created to establish a culture of professional, respectful, and inclusive communication among the participants. ALA Connect is where your committee work can take place, and it is a great place to store documents such as agendas, minutes, or reports for future committee members. You can send direct messages via ALA Connect, see how many members are in your committee, and if you have any questions or need help, there is this wonderful FAQ on the site at the bottom of the screen. Access to your committee's ALA Connect community is tied directly to the committee roster. So when your term officially began on July 1st, 2022, you automatically have access to your committee's ALA Connect space. And a link to each committee's ALA Connect space can be found in the resources section of your roster page. Now let's talk about some key dates and deadlines. Appointment terms. Appointment terms are from July 1st through June 30th. That's mostly the case for every committee. There are exceptions, and that's usually a task force if a special task force has been created by the approval of the board. But normally, All committees, your appointment terms are from July 1st to June 30th. Fiscal year is September the 1st through August 31st. Summer minutes are due. They're coming up past due July 15th. We're past July 15th. So if you haven't got your minutes in, please submit them. Reports and work plans are due August 31st. Let me just reiterate this. As you wrap up the program year, you want to make sure that committee minutes are uploaded to ALA Connect. They should have been done by July 15th. You got some grace. Go ahead and do it if you haven't done so already. You'll send a copy of your minutes to me so that they can be included in the next board packet. Even though the terms end on June 30th, this is what we call a grace period. Outgoing committee members will still have access to their committee's ALA Connect community through July 31st. This allows outgoing chairs to upload their year-end report, which will be combined with coming year's work plan. And final reports and work plans are due to me by August 31st. So you got a little over a month to get all of that done. They should also be uploaded to ALA Connect. However, I'm going to say before you upload your report to ALA Connect, you should allow your ACR board liaison to review the report. If you do not know who your board liaison is, you can find that information on the committee's roster. And in the fall, the ACR Board of Directors will receive a copy of each divisional level committee's report and the work plan. Now let's just talk about division level committees. President-elect Beth McNeil, hold on, I went, let me go back. President-elect Beth McNeil will be the appointing authority for all division level committee appointments for the next cycle. The call for volunteers will launch on December 1st, 2022 and close February 28th, 2023. Let me repeat that again. And let me turn my video on. The call for volunteers will launch on December the 1st, 2022 and close February 28th, 2023. Committee chairs will be contacted by the ACR Appointments Committee in late 2022 or early 2023 for recommendations for reappointment. Please note, committees do not, let me repeat this, committees do not make their own appointments. Volunteers must submit the volunteer form to demonstrate their commitment and to ensure they are considered. To complete the volunteer form, volunteers must be current ACRL and ALA members because all appointees must be ACR members throughout the duration of their committee appointment. Let me say that again. It's not just important that you're a member of ALA. If you want to volunteer for an ACRL committee, you must be an ALA member as well as an ACRL member. And please make sure that your membership is current before you attempt to volunteer. This will avoid any unnecessary frustration on your end. I can't tell you how many times we get people, I can't get the system, what's wrong? And the main reason is because their membership is not up to date. So you want to make sure that your membership is current before you even attempt to volunteer. Let's talk about online learning, which is very important. We have ACR e-learning, professional development focused on practical topics and issues, live webcasts and online courses, fee-based registration, and you can propose a topic to Margot Cunningham. We offer several types of online learning as detailed on the slide that you see. And every year there's an open call for proposals for e-learning topics. So please contact ACR Manager of Professional Development, Margot Cunningham, if you have ideas. We encourage your unit to submit a proposal for an e-learning webcast or course, and staff will take care of scheduling and logistics for these particular events. Now, regarding the online discussion forums, these are free discussion forums that our members offer on a variety of topics. They're free and open to all ACR units. They are hosted on a Zoom platform, and you can request your meeting or your online discussion forums of the ACR virtual meeting calendar. Sections, interest groups, and discussion groups are also welcome to develop content for online discussion forums, which are less formal than the e-learning session. Now, ACR has 2 rooms. One can hold up to 300 participants. We call that Zoom meeting. and then Zoom webinar, which can hold up to 999 participants. You determine your needs before you book a meeting. There are some differences, and you can find out what those differences are on ACRL LibGuide. I won't go over all of those, but one of the main difference is between webinar and Zoom meeting is Zoom webinar does not have breakout rooms.
Oh, Elois,
So
sorry.
if you want to have a meeting
Hi,
and
Elois.
invite individuals.
Oh, sorry, I
Yes.
don't mean to interrupt. Can you please advance the slides? I think we're on the next one, maybe.
We sure are. Thank you, Allison. See, I got to chew gum and walk at the same time today, everybody. Thank you for telling me that. My apologies. All right, back to what I was saying. ACR Zoom Rooms, one of the main difference between Zoom webinar and Zoom meetings is that Zoom meetings has breakout sessions, breakout rooms, but Zoom webinar does not. So if you think you're going to have a discussion forum and you want individuals to come into the room and break out in little different segments and have little special groups, you're going to need to use Zoom meetings to do that. And to schedule an online discussion forum, you just submit a request in the ACR virtual meeting LibCal. Be as precise as possible with your request. There are several questions we ask you. We ask you to fill them out if you don't have the answers right up top. And one of those might be you don't know who your speakers are. You can just simply send us the information as you get it. And also I want to mention regarding discussion forums, Zoom has an accessibility feature. And that is a question on the form that you would need to fill out to request a meeting. You simply let us know if you want your meeting to be accessible, and we will enable the live transcription during the course of your session. If we get a request from a member or registrant stating that they need that feature enabled, but you did not request it, we will need to enable that feature to accommodate the individuals. Once your meeting has been approved, please make sure your speakers and moderators register for your forum. I can't emphasize this enough because there are times we do get meetings and then the day of the meeting and the meeting has reached its maximum capacity, and I get a panic email stating, oh my goodness, my speakers have not registered. Don't panic, I can take care of that behind the scenes, but it is highly recommended that you send that information out in advance. For online forums, you will be responsible for the logistics and content of the event, and ACR staff will work with you to publicize it. Staff does not stay in the room for the entire session of your meeting. We'll make sure that your meeting is flowing before we resume our other responsibilities, but we will not listen in for your entire session. We'll come back in prior to the end of the session. We'll start and stop the recording for you. We'll send out the recording once it becomes available. And all of the recording discussion forums that are recorded, they are archived and they are available to members on the ACRL YouTube site. LibGuides, access for all ACR units, toolkits, FAQs, bibliographies. You contact your staff liaison if you're interested. We're pleased to offer this as a free service. Did I say free? So you do get benefits with your membership. Yes, this is a free service for our membership units thanks to the generous support of SpringShare. LibGuide should not replace ALA Connect on the online roster pages, but it can be a great tool for publishing toolkits, FAQs, and bibliographies. Again, contact your staff liaison for access information. Now let's talk about those wonderful meetings. 2023 ALA conferences. In January 2022, some of you may already know the ALA Midwinter meeting went away, and it was replaced by a new event called LibLearnX. LibLearnX is an educational experience designed to motivate and engage in discussions that will shape the future of libraries and their communities. You can sign up for updates on the ALA website if you want to stay abreast of the 2023 LibLearnX that's going to take place Wow, that's a tongue twister, Live, Learn, X, that will take place in New Orleans. You can sign up on ALA's website, the ALA Live, Learn, X website, to stay abreast of what's going to happen. The call for the educational programs is now open. Submission closes on August 5th, 2022. The review site opens August 9th. That's where the juries are going to review the proposals, and it will close on August 30th. Program decisions are due to be announced September the 30th, 2022, and the preliminary schedule is announced in October 2022. Registration and housing opens October 2022, and an LX, Live, Learn, X subcommittee will anonymously review and rate the submitted proposals. If you submit a proposal, you receive an automatic confirmation email for your records. It is encouraged that all Live, Learn, X submitters are ALA members. If you have any questions about the proposal process, you can contact ALA Conference Services at confs@ala.org. There will not be space available for committee business meetings at Live, Learn, X. Let me repeat that. There will not, N-O-T, not be space available for committee business meetings at Live, Learn, X. The next opportunity for your groups to meet in person for business committee meetings is not required, but you can do that at annual conference. And if you're interested in a meeting face-to-face, ACR staff will contact you in the fall. And let's talk about virtual meetings again. Groups must meet at least once a year. You need to give us your agendas and your minutes. Post all agendas to your ALA Connect space 10 days prior to each meeting and send it to your staff liaison. Post your minutes to your ALA Connect space within 2 weeks of your meeting and send that to your staff liaison as well. Again, as I said, we encourage you to hold virtual meetings throughout the year, and you must meet at least once per year. You're welcome to use your own Zoom account or other meeting platform, WebEx, or whatever you're comfortable with for committee and business meetings. And you may also request the use of ACRL's virtual meeting software if needed. And to comply with the ALA open meeting policy, please make sure to post your agenda 2 weeks before the meeting on ALA Connect. And we also encourage you to post the meeting minutes within 2 weeks after your meeting. And on that note, I am going to transition it back over to my colleague, Allison Payne.
Thanks so much, Elois. So just a couple recap slides. So I'll go over your next steps. It'd be good to update your ALA Connect profile, make sure that's up to date, communication preferences. If you'd like, you could also add a photo of yourself. Next steps also include reaching out and introducing yourself to your full committee if you haven't already, and welcoming the new members. You also may want to talk to the outgoing chair to familiarize yourself with the work of that group if you haven't done that already. And you also want to read through the work plan and report from last year and start thinking about what you and your committee will focus on in the coming year. And just a reminder to please post your combined report and work plan by August 31st. And also please send me a copy so that I can share that with the ACRL Board of Directors. And now is a good time to start thinking about when you might want to be meeting virtually with your committee and perhaps scheduling a meeting for later this summer or fall. All right. And so we're at the end, so we'll pause here. Now would be a good time to ask any questions. We can close down the slide deck for now. And if you have questions, you can either contact us through email or we can answer some questions now. Jay, Elois, I think Mary Jane is also on the call, who is our associate director. So if you have questions, please either unmute yourself or enter any questions you might have in the chat.
So while you're thinking about your questions, I want to thank Allison and Elois. When I first started at ACRL some 10 months ago, I likened it to drinking from a waterfall, and I was afraid to look up or else I would drown. And Allison and Lois and Mary Jane have just been instrumental in helping me understand ACRL and its hundreds of committees and its structure. So I recognize we just threw a lot of information at you, and so there are bound to be some questions, and so we're happy to try to address those. You can either raise your hand or put them in the chat, and we can see how we can address those. Let's see, Young Mi.
Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. I have a quick question about how many members can serve on each division goal committee, because recently I sent out the mass email to our members and one of them applied and was not accepted. And I was wondering what was the criteria that they can select to be the member of each division committee.
Well, Allison, well, Lois, you probably know that better than I. I think it's 3 maximum, isn't it?
That is correct, Jay.
Yeah.
You can only serve a maximum of a maximum on 3 committees, and it doesn't matter whether it's gold area or another committee. It's 3 is the max.
Thank you.
Oh,
You're welcome.
And
I also,
yeah, thank your colleague for wanting to serve on more than 3 committees. Sorry, Allison.
oh no, that's okay. I was just going to add a link to the ACRL volunteer page, which includes some of the guidelines that the appointments committee and the president-elect uses to make appointments. So I'll go ahead and paste that in the chat.
Thank you. And Mary Jane is pointing out that you can only serve on 1 editorial board every year, and that's for reasons of diversity and inclusion for that.
Oh, so while we're on the topic of appointments, I noticed that we have ACRL Vice President Beth McNeil on the call. Beth, I'd like to welcome you, and if you want to say a few remarks to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Allison and ACRL staff. It's great to be here, and I'm learning things along the way about how this appointment process works. So please do sign up and volunteer. And thanks for your service so far.
While you're thinking of questions, one thing that I wanted to underscore, which we kind of skirted over, is that choice is a part of ACRL, and many of you will remember that choice was started back in the 60s as a way for academic and research libraries to build their collections. So it's, we're focusing on the membership part of ACRL, excuse me, of ACRL here, but I just do always want to remind folks that choice is a part of the Association of College and Research Libraries, and an important part, and that they have more customers than members, but they make some really significant contributions to academia and to American Library Association.
In addition to what Jay said, Choice do have sponsored webinars. They connect academic and research libraries with a host of content and service providers, publishers, authors, and other experts to discuss timely and relevant topics pertinent to the library community at large.
Thank you, Lois. And one thing, I mean, if you haven't had a chance to visit Choice 360, they have this wonderful content vertical titled Toward Inclusive Excellence that Alexia Hudson Ward is the editor and main person for that. And just wonderful podcasts that are looking at issues of equity and inclusion. And these are audiences that reach, in the thousands and tens of thousands. So Choice does make significant contributions to EDI. Not just with ACRL, but with the community in general. Thank you, Betsy, for putting that in the chat.
Any other questions?
Lois, is this the time that we give them all the tests to see how much they absorbed?
Well, if they don't have any other questions that they would like to direct toward us, it is not mandatory that this meeting goes to the 2:00 p.m. Central Standard Time, but we did want to give everybody an opportunity, to come in. And if you had any questions and you wanted those questions addressed during the session, this is for you. So if you have any additional questions, there's no such thing as a silly question. Please feel free to ask it. When will the recording be available? Today is Tuesday. Hopefully we can have this recording by Thursday at the latest.
And just to reiterate, if a question occurs to you later, please reach out to us and we will be happy to answer it as best as we can. Again, this is a lot of information to absorb, but it's and you all are really one of the more important reasons why ACRL is able to do as much as it does. And it's your time and dedication and your talent and wisdom that really, I think, improve academic and research libraries across the board. And that's one of the, I think, the beauties of ACRL is that I know a lot of you are at institutions that are very vertical, that they probably have some strengths in specific areas. ACRL is very horizontal, and that we try to bring together librarians and library workers across the entire spectrum. And so together, I think we're able to accomplish so much more than we could individually in our own institutions. And I just wanted to reinforce how grateful I am for those contributions that you're making. And I'd like to echo Lois saying that there's no requirement that we stay until 2:00. We can just look around to see if there are any more questions. I'm not seeing any. I'd like to thank Allison, thank you, and Lois, thank you so much for pulling this together and for your help here. I would be a ship without a rudder without you, and I'm very grateful for that. And thank you all for your time here. And again, any question that occurs to you, that was a lot of information. After you had a chance maybe to review the recordings and to see the slides, you may have questions and we'll be happy to answer those. So thank you all so much.